today. Okay. I'm exceptionally passionate about what I'm about to be sharing. I'm also terrified. So a couple disclaimers. First things first. Sorry?
You should be terrified.
I should be terrified. Stop it. I apparently lost the last revision of this PowerPoint slideshow, so you're likely going to see some spelling errors. My apologies.
We cannot hear you.
You can't hear me? I will talk louder. Right, so I lost a revision of this PowerPoint slideshow. You're likely going to see some spelling errors. My apologies. This is the hardest presentation I have ever written. Its scope is broad. Let's see if this works. It's everything a software engineer needs to know. It has nothing to do with software engineering. So hopefully that's enough to kind of grab everybody's attention, but go, what in the world is he talking about? We're not going to be talking about LabVIEW this morning. We're not going to be talking about software engineering principles. We're going to be talking about something completely different that affects all of us, but I don't know we've ever had a conversation about officially. So, let's dive in. Throughout my career, I have stepped on a lot of landmines, quite a few. This presentation is kind of a collection of, we'll call them proverbs, some things that I've learned on how to sidestep those landmines. And I'm guessing the vast majority of you have also gone through the same school of hard knocks. The reason why I put this presentation together is not necessarily for us as an audience, but for those people who you mentor, so that you can help them navigate these waters that we'll be talking about shortly as well. So yeah, I fell into a lot of holes in my career. What does that career look like? So my name is Cilino, recent LabVIEW Center of Excellence Tech Lead at Cirrus Logic. So much fun to do that. I have been a LabVIEW champion since 2017, and if you've not heard of the Champions program, we've got Nancy in the room. Nancy is the Champions coordinator, and I've asked her to give a brief description of the Champions program.
Yeah, good luck on a brief description. So the Champions program was started, 15 years ago, and actually Chris ran the Champions program for several years and did a fantastic job of kind of building it back up again before he did the awful, devastating, horrible thing of leaving NI and going someplace else, but we love you still. So I picked it up, and so the Champions program, raise your hand if you're a champion. See, quite a few hands going up here. You typically see these individuals at user group meetings. You'll see them on the forums. You'll see them running events like this. So a LabVIEW champion really has a couple characteristics. One, the individual is very technically savvy, and that's very important for our Champions program. The second key thing is they really are leaders in the community, and you see that by meeting the people and getting to know the champions. And then they're always giving back. Now, the Champions program years ago got started to reward people who were on the online community. A lot of our champions are online, and a lot of our champions are contributing in-person events. So they're giving back to the community. They're working really hard. We really, really, really appreciate all the hard work that the champions do. One of the benefits of the Champions program is we have monthly meetings with R&D staff, and I don't know if everybody in this room really realizes this, but our LabVIEW R&D department reorganized, I'm going off on a tangent now, reorganized not too long ago, and we have some fantastic veteran people within our R&D organization who are product owners for various aspects of LabVIEW and LabVIEW NXG. And I am so excited to see how efficient that group is working, and so the champions have really gotten to know a lot of our product owners, and they get to have those great roadmap conversations monthly and then at our Champions Dinner and otherwise. So hopefully that was succinct enough.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, and mention, let me know if you have questions and you're interested. Or talk to Chris, talk to an existing champion.
Thanks, Nancy. I'm exceptionally honored to be in this Champions program. It's super awesome. I've been a CLA since 2014. I work at Cirrus Logic as the architect of our framework there. So what does that mean? I project manage some contractors offshore where I define requirements, ship them over there, they ship their work back, I evaluate it. I'm the designer and I'm the executor of software processes at Cirrus Logic. Before I got there wasn't a whole lot of software engineering process in place. I brought all that into existence and made sure it gets followed. like I said, the framework architect. I get to teach and I get to mentor. So I get to do basically everything a lot of things that a small business owner might get a chance to do. I love it. It's great. Before that, I was at National Instruments for 12 years. I spent the first 2.5 years in applications engineering. I spent the following 7-ish years in R&D where I owned products like the DACA system. And I always joke with everybody, all the good stuff about the DACA system, that was me. All the bugs was definitely somebody else. But I learned a lot of really cool principles. Not only software, but also how do you get your ideas implemented and how do you get heard when you have ideas for software. Okay, then I spent 2 years in marketing where there's almost no software development and it's all about ideas. It's all about how do you get your ideas propagated, heard, and implemented. Okay, so that's who I am. During my career, I discovered that there are at least 2 kinds of problems that I'm going to face, and I'm going to argue any engineer is going to face. Another way of saying it, I think that we all face problems with 2 facets, the political aspect and the engineering aspect. Now, both of those words can be overloaded, so here's some definitions that I found that I think is pretty handy. We'll start with the engineering problem definition. And I love this. It's the application of science and mathematics, tasty already, by which the properties of matter and the sources of energy in nature are made useful to people. And that's what we just eat up all day. We love doing cool stuff with this world to make it useful. Tasty. Okay, then we've got the political aspect. It's the activities associated with the governance of a community, especially the debate or conflict among individuals or parties having or hoping to achieve that word, power. So let's define what we mean by power. We're all going to like this. It's the capacity or the ability to direct or influence the behavior of others in the course of events. Turns out, our first day here, when we're talking about community, a lot of it's political. How do we come up with a standard and see that standard distributed? How do we actually do that? We are in the midst of political decision making here. Somebody wanted to talk about the community afterwards. I think that's political. So, here's what we hope as engineers. These 2 don't ever affect each other, right? We would love to see these 2 ideas separated. What I'm going to argue, what I'm going to suggest, is not only are they inseparable, but the political aspect of any problem that you solve will overshadow the engineering aspect. And for some of us, that kills our souls. I get it. I totally get it. Why are these political problems so influential? If you're like me, you just threw up in your mouth. Because you will never do work in a vacuum. Even if you never talk to another person or see their face, you're going to use their APIs. You're going to use their frameworks. And by proxy, you're working with people. You can't escape it. People aren't formulas. People have psychologies. We all have emotions. We have our histories. We have our backgrounds. We have what happened this morning and what's about to blow up this afternoon. So when you go and you start talking with somebody, you can't say, here's the logical reason why you should do this thing and expect somebody to just exercise pure logic. People don't work that way. We would certainly like that, but people don't work that way. And then when we're making decisions, they're largely based on my current set of circumstances and the value system that I as a decision maker have, or you as a decision maker have. And like I said, people are unavoidable. You're in a community. You might own your own business. You're in a huge community. You have a customer base that's hopefully gigantic. You're a part of an organization. You have bosses, managers. You get the idea. And the reason why you really can't avoid politics is because, look, this is business. What it all boils down to is you might be able to make this world do incredible things, and if you can't sell it, I don't know if you're going to be able to eat. So it all boils down to business. Time and money, time and money, time and money. That's the world that we live in. And that kind of, if you're an engineer like me, that makes you die a little bit inside. Okay, so, but I don't want to play politics. Can't I just keep my head down and do the engineering? And I used to think this. When I was in R&D, I was just like, keep your head down and write the code. And that's totally fine if you're okay with someone else dictating to you the following: your company's practices, procedures, the tooling, the structure, and the organization in which you live your day-to-day life. If you're okay with somebody telling that to you, you don't got to play politics. If you're okay with somebody telling you exactly what to do in your specific job, you don't have to play politics. If you're okay with somebody telling you what your career and its future is going to look like, you don't have to play politics. And then lastly is the way that people listen or don't listen to you. So, I expect there to be a lot of conversation. I welcome it. Go for
You
it.
may not care about politics. It is guaranteed that politics cares about you.
Absolutely, that's a fantastic statement. You might not care about politics. I promise you, politics cares about you. I promise you that. You've got to learn how to play the game. All right. So this is great. Okay, fine. I'll play. I would argue this is where we as engineers make our biggest mistake. Biggest. We think that we can use engineering parlance and engineering thought process in the political arena. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way because people don't have APIs. People are formulas. Is Eli in the room? Okay, well, so I used to report to Eli here at National Instruments, and when I came from R&D into marketing, Eli would talk about these grand ideas, and he wanted me to do things, and I was like, think of me as a human compiler. I don't know what just do it means. Can we have some more specificness? And yeah, there's room for conversation there. But it turns out I'm not a human compiler. None of us are. So, for the rest of our time, I want to share some of the lessons that I've learned to navigate these political waters, both in things to do, and then I have a whole entire section on, I call Defense Against the Dark Arts. So, for those Harry Potter fans out there, we'll be talking about that. All right. I suggest the following. The most important tool, the most important currency in the political arena is trust. However you get it, trust is all that matters. For engineers, we typically equate that to confidence in your ability to achieve an objective. I can write good code. That's important. Check. It's not enough. Until you're trusted, through whatever means, you're going to have to do a lot of debating and a lot of proving to affect any change at all. Until you're trusted, you will only be able to affect very small change. And for an engineer who wants to be innovative, both of those are very frustrating. Get trust. Get it quick. So this last statement is something I've kind of learned over time. This idea of trust and garnering trust and influence and authority. I propose that influence and authority will organically follow. And I'll get to that in just a second. Organically follow those who have the greatest good in mind for the broadest set of people. By organically, I mean nobody's come to you and given you the title of chief architect in charge of everything. People do follow titles. I would call that inorganic. That's organizational, systematic, whatever. Sometimes people just get followed. And I think that the people that just get followed, some of the personality or characteristic traits, they demonstrate to others that they have other people's good in mind. Now, what is good? That's a whole other topic unto itself. But you've convinced people that you've got their good in mind, so they're going to follow what you have to say. All right. How do we get trust? This is engineering pitfall. There is no one way to get trust. We would like that as engineers. What's the formula? Doesn't work that way. How you build trust varies on your audience. You have to put yourself in your stakeholders' shoes. I have these things, I put pro tips, I don't know why I chose that. It's just like a bullet point, a practical thing that you can walk away with. Whenever you're communicating, I don't care who it's to, know what your audience cares about. What do they value? And then you have to map what you value to what they value. It's pretty straightforward, kind of hard to do. Appeal to their value system. Anyways, know your audience. Who are your audiences? I'm going to suggest 4 categories in order of importance before I get to this next slide. The number one audience that I think we most often overlook, but yet is most important, that you need to build trust with, is yourself. You have to trust yourself. You have to trust your capabilities. You have to know that you can do the job. If you don't trust yourself, no one else will either. How you project that trust, different question, we'll get there in just a second. If you don't trust yourself and believe that you can do the thing, you're already up the creek. Now also, this is the summary slide. We're going to go into how do you build trust with each of these audiences. But quick pro tip. Oftentimes in engineering, it's trade-offs, it's pluses and minuses. It doesn't have to be that way with your stakeholders. Everybody on that list can win. It's not always the case that somebody has to lose. If you can phrase a value proposition in a way that appeals to all of those stakeholders, you increase your chance of influence. Make sense so far? Tracking? Okay. Like I said, if you have questions or anecdotal stories or I completely disagree with that, let's have a conversation. How do you build trust with yourself? If you don't trust yourself, you can't help people because you don't think that you have anything to offer. So that's the why you should trust yourself. How do you go about doing that? Here's one. How about you keep a record of your past successes? How many of you, when you have like some sort of engineering breakthrough or you come up with a new framework, you write it down? I don't, not typically. When I got to Cirrus Logic, I just started to keep a log so that I could go into my one-on-one with my boss every 2 weeks and take over that conversation. I wanted to guide and direct that conversation with my boss and say, here are all the things that I've done. This is why you should be trusting me. So every 2 weeks, I would put together this journal. It's great for a one-on-one with the boss, and it demonstrates short-term success. I need more than just short-term success. I need a long-standing record. I recommend, I submit that your resume is a fantastic place to keep track of your long-term success.
One
of the first tips that I got from my first boss in Mexico was that when you do something, you have to think about hens. Okay? When a hen lays an egg, it needs to make enough noise so the farmer knows that it was that hen that laid the egg.
Right.
And she gets the credit, and the farmer gets to pick the egg.
Yep.
So if you are laying eggs all around and you're never making enough noise, either another hen is going to get the credit,
Right.
or the farmer's not going to know about it.
And I get it. This is like a real challenge for us because we oftentimes think my work should speak for itself. I'm here to tell you that's a lie. It's a lie. If you don't propagate your work, the likelihood of it getting recognized diminishes. Yes, your work can speak for itself. I would call that the exception rather than the rule. You have to make noise when you lay the egg. Now, you run the risk of making too much noise and then people just think you're showboating. So clearly it's a balance. But if you don't talk about your work, why should anybody else? Okay, keep your resume up to date. That goes for LinkedIn, whatever. And clearly you're killing two birds with one stone. You can look at a body of evidence and say, I can do this job. And by the way, this is publicly visible. The entire world now knows that I can do it too. It takes work to do this. Worth it. Okay. Be willing to try new things well outside of your comfort zone. And here's the key. You have to allow yourself the chance to fail. Pro tip. Fail, but fail fast. One of the things I love about working for my current boss is he's like, we have this really difficult problem that we have to solve. You don't have to know what the solution is before you start implementation. Try something. Just try something. Start making progress. Fail. Go for it. Fail fast. Learn from your mistakes. Converge towards a solution. There is no shame in failure. There's shame in stopping before you actually solve the problem. That's where I think the issue is. Don't stop. Solve the problem. Solve the problem. Along those lines, this is another sort of self-tip that I picked up. This actually just happened last week. I spent 3 hours debugging an anti-package manager problem. It was my fault. I had a typo. And I spent 3 hours going through the entire system until I found this one typo. The first words out of my mouth were, "You idiot." That never helps anybody. And that's going to degrade your personal trust in yourself to solve a problem. You're not an idiot. Actually, don't even evaluate yourself. It doesn't matter. Just solve the problem. Don't waste brain cycles on this self-evaluation. In this case, what's not necessary. Okay. Story time. So I could talk about this for, I don't know, an hour, hour and a half. So I'm going to condense that down to 5 minutes. Good luck for me. When I got out of R&D, I was, believe it or not, I didn't like talking in front of people. I was exceptionally shy. And like I said, I'd go to NI Week every year and I'd see these people up on the stage and I was like, I will never be up on that stage. Never. I'm never going to do that. Okay, then I got this really cool LabVIEW idea. I think it's cool. It's called a LabVIEW container and I published it. Anyways, I laid an egg and I started making some noise about it. The way that you get ideas adopted at National Instruments is by socializing them. So you go talk to different people and get your idea across. Well, I presented my idea to this one guy in marketing, And he's like, well, this guy can actually make complete sentences, and he's kind of passionate, and knows what he's talking about with LabVIEW. I wonder if we could put him in front of customers at Dev Days and see if he can explain the producer-consumer pattern. That's uncomfortable for me, but I kind of know LabVIEW, so I was like, sure, I'll give it a shot. When I went out for Dev Days, I went with the sales team. And so they got to see me present, and I got in the zone. There's the producer, there's the consumer, there's the Q. That's amazing. And so I got all of these customers totally engaged, and afterwards the salespeople walked up and were like, what are you doing in R&D? You should be in sales or marketing. And I'm like, okay. Now, at that point in my career, this is towards the tail end of my 7 years in R&D, I was looking for a change, and so this marketing guy offered me the opportunity to move to marketing. I was like, okay, fine. One of the very first things that they asked me to do was fly over to Germany and present NIDs in front of, 500 Germans sitting on the keynote stage, and this is me on the keynote stage. Absolutely terrified. I have no idea. So they gave me the script. The 7 minutes I was going to be on the keynote stage 3 weeks in advance. I was like, God, I have to memorize stuff. People are going to be looking at me. What if I screw up on stage? And it's all of this self-nonsense that starts coming into my head. And for the first week that I had the script, I just tried to memorize it, and I couldn't. I was like, okay, let's take a step back. Can I even imagine a world where I walk off the stage and I feel good about what I did? The answer was no. Why is it that I believe I have to fail? So I had some personal demons that I had to fight. And I decided, all right, here's how this is going to go. This is not me performing. This is me learning myself. What can or can't I do? So I actually get 3 chances to do this presentation. Once in Germany, once in Poland, once in Washington, D.C. I'm going to allow myself the chance to totally blow it. Not only once, not only twice, but all 3 times. And at the end of that 3 times, if I do really well, or if I just totally blow it, here's what's happened. I've learned what I am or am not good at, and that can give me direction on what I should do next. So let's turn whatever this experience is into something practical. All right. The next 2 weeks go by. Somehow, magically, the script gets shoved into my head. I travel over to Germany. That's a whole long story in itself, which is a lot of fun to tell. And it's the morning of the keynote presentation. And the keynote presentation is this big stage with this huge screen, and the keynote speaker goes up front, and they start doing their stuff in German. I'm actually pacing back and forth behind that screen, just saying the lines over and over in my mind, terrified. What's going to happen when I get out there? They call my name, and I walk out on stage, and I knock it out of the park. Absolutely knocked it out of the park. Now, I don't know if you're like me, whenever I visit a memory in my mind, I take my present experience and map it over the memory. So if I'm feeling really kind of bad, and I remember a situation, somehow those bad feelings make it into the memory. This thing is recorded online. I can go watch this YouTube video of me going out on stage right now and refer back to it in its purest form. So I don't have to, I'm going to go on the keynote stage this year. I actually did that. Can I do it? I've got a video online. I have a body of evidence that proves I can do this. That is what allowed me to go up on the keynote stage this year. I was willing to try something new. I was willing to evaluate myself and being okay with failing. It really wasn't failing. It was just learning what am I good or not good at. That's totally fine. Totally fine. Turns out in Poland and DC, I totally knocked this thing out of the park. And then I spent the next 2 years in marketing. It was great. Last year I wound up on the NI Week stage. The thing I said I would never do, I did it. It scared the hell out of me, but I still did it. It's terrifying to get up there and have you do it. All right, anyways, building trust in yourself. Oh, sorry, moving on. Building trust with your boss. I'm going to suggest the most important professional relationship, that's on yourself, that you have is with your boss or your customer. Why? Because the organization looks to your boss as a proxy of you. And you're looking to your boss as a proxy of the rest of the company. They also have the most influence over your direct experience at your job. This is all obvious. Okay, so I tend to think of my relationship with my boss as a garden that I have to kind of curate all the time. If I hear my boss starting to talk about any of my work in a questionable way, or I hear other people talking about my work in a questionable way, I'm on that conversation immediately. I hate to say this. Oh God, I hate to say this. I can't believe I have to say this. Perception is reality. God, I hate that so much. You can create the best toolkit ever, and if it gets bad press, nobody's going to care. Even though it might be really, really good, if everybody starts talking about it in a negative way, doesn't matter. I hate that. So if I start to hear perception of me or my work in jeopardy, I'm on that immediately. And the most important perception I guard is with my boss. Absolutely. So how do you continue building trust with your boss? Figure out what does your boss care about, really. Again, the way that you build trust depends on your audience. What does your boss care about? What I think my boss cares about is that projects are complete and completed with efficient use of time and money. The company is getting the most out of me, bang for their buck, and he just wants to know that there's a general feeling that things are just working. That's what they care about, I think. All right, so I'm not going to go to my boss and say, dude, I just plugged this memory leak. He's going to go, I don't care. I don't care. It might have been a really hard engineering problem. Props, I don't care. It doesn't match up with his value system. So I have to be able to talk about our customers can now do things with more efficiency, and that's going to make our product more appealing and perhaps improve sales. Okay, cool. He's probably going to care about that. What your boss really doesn't want to care about, or again, doesn't want to have to, are the details. That's the reason why you actually have a job. You abstract the details and the means by which those details are completed from the rest of the organization. As a software developer, that's kind of cool and kind of bad all at the same time because we make some really cool stuff. We solve some really neat problems with some really cool algorithms, but that's not the value proposition to your organization. The value proposition to your organization is time and money. How did you make the company more money? How did you save the company time? I don't care about the framework that you used. That's neat for us, and that's really cool. The company doesn't care. Your boss doesn't want to care about that. Pro tip. I used to wonder why my boss always liked micromanaging me. And it was because I felt like the way in which I would convey my value to my boss is if I made them feel my pain. It's a terrible idea. Because the pain that I was experiencing were all the little details. And so it's likely that your boss is going to have some sort of an engineering background. Anytime an engineer hears a problem, what are they going to try and do? Solve it! Get out of my, this is for me to solve. If it's for you to solve, don't talk about it with your boss in a way that's like the problem solving. Talk about it from the value proposition. They care about the value. Okay, here's something else. If you want to gain trust with your boss, never say that you have a problem without a path to success. That's the worst thing that you can do. So my build system is down, and I don't know how we're going to get this next delivery out. Do you really think that's what your boss wants to hear? No. So the build process went down last night. I'm not sure where the problem is. I'm confident I'll be able to get there in the next 4 hours, but if I don't get it in 4 hours, I'll close the loop with you. Fantastic. Much better. Your boss, you're instilling confidence in your boss that you know what you're doing. Okay, great. Your boss has tons of decisions to make based on assumptions. Alleviate their stress. Don't add to it. Never come to them with, should I use actor framework or should I use producer-consumer thoughts? They're going to start asking you all kinds of questions. If you have a decision that you need your boss to weigh in on, here are the two options. Here are the advantages and disadvantages of both and my recommendation. What do you think about that? Right? So you see the conversation. You ever just ask your boss to just make a decision? P.S. Anywhere there's ambiguity in your organization where you can make a decision is a chance for you to influence. Don't shy away from making decisions. Yes, you're putting a huge target on your back. I get it. I've actually got that target on my back at Cirrus Logic, and I'm getting shot all over the time. It's really painful. On the other hand, I also have significant influence at Cirrus Logic. So it comes with the territory. All right. Take risks. Be willing to estimate. Oh man, I still remember this. I feel so bad for my old bosses. They'd come to me and say, hey Chris, how long is it going to take you to implement this one fix or fix this one car in the DACA system? And I'd go, well, detail, and I didn't want to give an answer. I was afraid for writing a check. I might not be able to cash. And so I would never take risks or be willing to estimate. This does not instill confidence in you and your boss. So here's what I propose. Anytime somebody asks you to write a check, take a little bit of risk, and then mitigate that risk. I think that we'll be able to do this, so there's the judgment call, but I'll let you know by if it looks like we need to change course. So there's an escape hatch in place there. That's cool. But you're also giving your boss some means to estimate timelines so that the project stays on track, which is what they care about. They have to have some way of knowing, is this project progressing at a rate that's, check, it's good. If you can't give them a date or give them an estimate, they can't do their job. And then they're going to try and solve that problem and micromanage you until you give them some way to estimate the progress of the task. So, be willing to make a judgment call. Always keep your boss in the loop. Okay, we're flying through this. Nobody's like saying, that's crazy. So, that's great. Good. All right. I learned this one in marketing. The art of negotiation. Rarely, if ever, use the word no. It doesn't build trust. Learn how to say yes while saying no. Hey, do you think that we can ship the DAC assistant by next week? Yes, but we might have to cut 3 features. Do you think that we can add these 3 features in? Yes, but it might take an extra week. Yes, we can do whatever it is that we need. Engineering is rarely about whether or not you can do something. It's all about trade-offs and timing and resources. So, can something happen? Yeah. It's just helping understand trade-offs. That's all. Yes, but is no. Yes, but. Questions?
Just a general observation.
Yeah.
That I hate that.
Yes. Because we use words.
Because it's
He hates
necessary
that.
bullshit.
It's
right.
It isn't necessary. I completely agree. So he hates that phrase. I hate it.
Does it answer your question?
That's correct. Can we do this by this date? Well, if I say no.
That's the answer to the question.
Yeah, I know. I get it.
Right?
I get it. Even though that's the question your boss asks, that's not what they're really asking. I'm convinced of that. We had a question over here first.
Just a general comment. A lot of this can get blown up when you start dealing with
not the United States American culture that most of us live by here. You start dealing with overseas cultures,
Absolutely.
which a lot of us have to do because multinational corporations and stuff like that.
Yes.
You need a whole nother slide deck to deal with that. And I'd love it if you would be willing to have that ready for next year.
Piece of cake. So one of the reasons why I was absolutely terrified to give this presentation, I'm talking about an entire world that is highly nuanced, very specific for each one of us, but I'm talking about it in very general and generic terms. This stuff is going to blow up all over the place. So I agree with you. What about internationally? What about if I'm a company of one? What if I'm in a company of a million? I don't know. You're right. This all needs to get maybe personalized. So in some sense, I'm proposing an architecture or a framework, if you will, in the political problem-solving arena. But I completely agree with you. This stuff all changes, except for, I would still argue that trust is really, really important. In some cultures, that trust comes. Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, a couple of comments. So the first one, I agree with his statement. His statement about that. I think this one is kind of for me that if I have people that keep giving me that answer, the trust aspect is getting in place, but I'm getting to think like, yeah, I cannot trust that person. They keep telling me yes when it's a no.
What would it, so I've wrestled with this a lot. Maybe it's not yes, but. Maybe that's the spirit of the idea. Somebody says, hey, can we deliver feature X in 3 weeks? I'm not real sure that we can. However, what if we did this instead? So that's, I'm not saying yes.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's all also depends on which audience it is.
Definitely.
So there's some scenario where I might do that if it's a customer.
Sure.
If it's my boss, I think might be a little bit of an issue because then say, well, I keep asking that person to do this and he keeps saying me yes, but I get little chunk, but not much.
Right. This is where I think keeping your boss in the loop on your progress is critical. Yes, I think we can do this, but I'll let you know within this period of time whether or not I think that we can hit that point.
And another quick comment related to the other comment as well. So, okay, I'm French. I've been in the US now for a long time. So there's a lot of things that I'm getting, but I saw a little comic many years ago about how you convince people from different international backgrounds to do things. And when I saw the one about the French, I was like, oh yeah, that actually worked on me.
Okay, so what was the thing?
For the French one was like, French are very susceptible to logic. If you can demonstrate something with good argument, then they are going to buy into it. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, that worked great on me. If you can, even if initially I'm against the idea, just move it forward with the argumentation. I was like, okay, yeah, I have nothing to go against that. I can. You are right, so I can go with it. No.
Yes.
So, Chris, I would say one word that I have tried to eliminate from my vocabulary is but.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because but erases anything that you said before that.
Okay.
So it totally nullifies. It doesn't matter what you say. You can say fantastic, you can say what, but if you say but, you just erase anything that you said before that. And on the trust part, what has worked for me is mean what you say what you mean.
Definitely.
And I think everybody here knows that I'm an open book. Somebody was asking me yesterday if I switch different personality when I'm talking to a customer versus talking to a developer.
Sure.
And no. And I am pretty direct, and sometimes that gets me into a pickle because I might be, well, a lot of times, I might be a little too direct. But like, for example, yesterday, Tony Mento said, I come to talk to you because you're going to tell me what it is, the way you think it, and direct. There's not going to be any sugarcoating. So that trust built with the people that I work with my customers, has been because I always say what I mean, and I mean what I say. So I would recommend eliminate that but and be very direct. And when you get these types of questions and you have to negotiate, I try to start with a joke, which you have already heard, which is everything is possible in LabVIEW. It all depends how much time and how much money you have.
That's right.
So once we define the scope, budget,
Sure.
time, then we can figure out which one is the one that we're compromising. And I guess to finish with the French thought, that might be part of the fact that I went to a French high school. So I get a mix between the Mexican, the French, and the American cultures, which is a mix that, I don't know, it's good, but or whatever. But
Interesting. One of the things that I've gotten a chance to do in my career, I got the chance to actually present in front of folks like Jeff Kay, Alex Davern, and actually my current CEO. And you're right, you have to be straightforward. If they detect any veneer of you're trying to deceive them, game over. So I completely agree with you. I think that you can be not deceptive. I think that you can be completely honest while changing, customizing the message for your audience. I guess, if anything, that's kind of sort of what I'm trying to get across. You're right. Yes, but all that kind of great stuff. It depends on who you're working with. Like, if you're working with another engineer who needs cold, hard facts, yes, but they're going to punch you in the throat. It's game over. I get it. I totally get it. If you're working with a customer who needs a concrete deliverable, you tell them yes, but punch you in the throat. If you're working with a CEO and they're going to start asking you, will our customers feel good about what you're doing? Yes. I don't know all of my customers' minds. Anyways, so it's
That's the thing is, like, if you stay true to yourself,
you don't have to switch it if you're talking to a janitor, to a CEO, to a secretary. It doesn't matter. And actually makes it it's a lot less of a burden.
For us as the individuals, you're right. It
yeah,
is
and
less
you don't
of a
have
burden.
any control. Your expectations of what I do and how you deal with what I say, it's your problem. My problem is trying to figure out how I can express what I'm thinking.
Yep.
I have no control on what you think of what I'm saying.
So, go ahead.
All right. So you mentioned you wanted a framework. Hi.
Thank you.
So you actually mentioned you're proposing a framework for this, and I actually have one for you. So this is something that I've really cared about for a long time, and have actually already started putting together a program that helps people. Right now it's mainly geared towards your personal life, but we're actually building it into, it agrees very much with Agile principles and where Scrum is the tangible process of implementing Agile. This program called Choose Movement is the behavioral side of it. And essentially, it consists of 13 behavioral skills based off of research of people throughout history and whatnot, right, that have attributed to their success in these environments. And they all address everything you're talking about: how trust is important, how you need to take care of yourself, how being true to yourself is important, but you have to understand your audience in order to communicate effectively and set those expectations.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So.
When's it gonna come out?
So there's already a website where you can read about all the different skills. It's called choose-movement.org.
Awesome.
And so definitely take a look at it. I'm always happy to hear feedback. The reason why I actually own an alliance partner right now is because I wanted to test that theory in business. And it's been incredibly successful over the last 5 years. So what you're talking about of being able to essentially make everybody happy, right? Where your boss is happy, you're being able to set expectations, you're being able to have a good work-life balance. All of that is possible. It's just a matter of learning how to interact with the people around you and communicating appropriately. And so, so choose-movement.org is something that you can look at, and always looking for feedback too.
We'll take one more and then we don't press on.
Okay,
Let's
sorry.
choose.
I am the microphone. A little note on the cultural side. I'm from Japan. It's probably one of, if not the most, charged, a high context culture. But I feel that in the U.S. and in Japan both, what your boss wants to do, they have an objective that they're trying to reach. And to reach that objective, that's why they're asking you, can you do this by such and such date? To address that, you give them, yes, if I get this kind of help.
Right.
So you help them solve the problem. You help them see what they need to do to help you solve the problem.
So I like that a lot. I like that a lot. In fact, I'll change this slide. Yes, if.
I'll throw this out real quick. If you inject yes but into your marriage, you have started the clock of your divorce.
And it is the same should not be applied in your marriage.
It's the same in any relationship. And I like yes.
Yeah, yes,
I like
it's good.
that a lot. The other one that I was always taught, because I've blown up some relationships and I've talked to professionals about how not to blow up relationships. Yes. And.
Good.
And I will need another week.
Perfect.
And we will cut this feature.
Isn't it interesting the power of a singular word? Words are important. Words are real important. Really important. Okay, good. All right, we're going to press on. Go.
We don't have to press on if you don't want to. I'm okay with this. Keep going.
I want to get to the defense against the dark arts. All right, so one of the things that you can do, involve your boss in your groups of success. That's my boss up on stage with me at NI Week. When I was invited to go to NI Week, the very first thing is I send my boss an email and say, hey, you want to present with me? This is partly your idea. Don't be a glory hog. Give credit to where credit's due. And P.S., your boss is a person too. They appreciate recognition. Okay, I really want to get to the defense against the dark arts. So how do you build trust with your coworkers? Again, by coworker, I mean person who uses your work or whose work you use. What do your coworkers care about? I suggest there's probably a bigger list than this, but at least everyone wants to get their job done a little bit better with less pain. We all want recognition. Okay, cool. So always concentrate on the engineering problem. Never attack the individual when something goes wrong. In fact, I honestly believe people can't be right or wrong. People are people. Ideas can be right or wrong.
And when somebody attacks your idea, remember that.
No. You're attacking me. Clearly. Yes, and in fact, I quickly try and steer the conversation towards, let's talk about that idea. It's always about this other thing that we can get on the, actually, seriously, we have this idea, same side of the fence. So we want to position the thing that we're talking about over there, and you and I are on the same side looking at it, never each other. Okay, we all make mistakes. Assigning blame is rarely, if ever, helpful. My unnamed tech lead, who I worked under for 5 years, he actually used to play the P4 blame game. So we'd take a look at the last committed change list whenever there's a bug, and we'd say, that person, they suck or whatever. They should go fix it. We'll enforce consequences on them. That never helps. That doesn't build trust. We'll just say that. Again, give credit where credit is due. As much as you can, elevate your coworkers to their boss and to other people. We all want recognition. All right. Okay, building trust with upper management. I still think there's only one slide on this. It's actually pretty important. I've gotten into our elevator a number of times with our CEO, and every chance I can talk, I really do want to talk to him so he gets to know me. But I get it. So there's this famous quote: better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. Yeah, don't say stupid stuff in front of powerful people. I get it. Small anecdotal story. So me and my tech lead used to have this running joke. We worked in LabVIEW extensively. LabVIEW's not the perfect language, and we used to get frustrated a lot. And so we would just yell out, "LabVIEW sucks!" And that's okay so long as you're in your cube. When you're walking around in the lunchroom, probably not a good idea. And so I still remember this. I was walking along the hallway just over here, and me and my tech lead were talking, and I yelled out, "LabVIEW sucks." Guess you walk around the corner. Dr. Trishard. Career-limiting statements to avoid. Yeah, don't do stupid stuff like that.
Steve Watt's book, Software Engineering Approach to LabVIEW. The first chapter title is Why LabVIEW Sucks. And the second chapter is Why LabVIEW Rocks. So again, you just have to go like
Well, right, but I'm walking around the corner, I'm not going to say, Dr. T, what I mean is... Right, okay, but I think as engineers, we tend to go towards the other extreme, but just keep your mouth shut. You might say something that's going to... You have to be willing to engage powerful people. If you don't, you've laid this egg, you got to make noise about it. Nobody's going to care elsewise. Okay. Details. Be prepared for your water cooler conversation. God, this is important. So have a 15-second summary of whatever it is that you're working on. I don't care what it is. Be able to summarize whatever it is that you're working on in terms of the business objectives of your company. That does two things. It gets you prepared to actually have that really cool conversation, and it makes sure you're aligned to what your company stands for. How about that? That's really kind of important. All right. Now, defense against the dark arts. The political arena, it's dangerous. God, there can be some really nasty psychological tricks that people play. I have witnessed some things. I've been in conversations before where after I'm done with the conversation, I feel like I need to go take a shower because it was just gross. So what are some of the danger zones or pitfalls that I've seen? If you've never heard of logical fallacy, it's yourlogicalfallacies.com. I love it. This is a poster of the top 20 or so logical fallacies that people employ to win arguments or debate. I love this so much, it's actually at my desk at Cirrus Logic. People come to my desk and they see this. I posted this when I was in marketing here. I got this when I was in marketing here, if that tells you anything. So, what are some of the logical fallacies? The three logical fallacies that I just want to use as an example. The first is the straw man argument. Being able to capture somebody's idea, reword it back is really powerful. It's really powerful. You can use it for good or for evil. I can reword your argument, misrepresent what you said, attack that false idea, and then get everybody to agree with me. And I just shot your idea out of the water. Guard against that. How do you guard against it? I need, what's one of the spells that Harry Potter uses, Q? Expelliarmus. Right, okay. Here's a phrase. That's close to what I mean. So you're building a bridge. You're not saying, you're an idiot. You didn't listen to what I said. That doesn't help anybody. So you can say something like, that's actually kind of close to what I mean. Let me take another swing at explaining it. So you just took the mic back. You just took over the control of the conversation again, and you can reform the idea in everybody's mind. It's damage control. Pain in the butt. Ambiguity. Oh my God. I hate the English language so much. So anytime you use a word or an idea that has multiple meanings to drive alignment, that's really dangerous because you're getting people to agree to something, but they don't know what it is. And then when you actually execute on it, you can say, yeah, but you said, blah, 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 blah. And then in retrospect is when you assign the concrete meaning. That's really kind of underhanded. Don't do that. Be clear with your speech. Say what you mean what you say.
Quick comment on that. I have actually had my career damaged because I said something, but I was speaking in a totally different world than my managers.
It is.
And it wasn't intentional on either side, but they ended up thinking something that I did not say.
Right.
So this is even unintentional. This is bad.
I've been taught it's not what you say, it's what they hear. It's the communication that just took place.
So checking for understanding is a really good way to understand what did they hear. Now that can also be dangerous because if I check your understanding from what I said, I'm asking you to re-represent the idea in your own words. Then they can build a straw man argument. If they're not careful, it will be unintentional. So when they repeat back the idea, you have to curate their understanding of what you said. Can't we just have an API for people? Right? Okay, this is a really good one. Burden of proof. I'm going to make an outlandish statement and put the burden on your back to prove me wrong. No, that's not the way this game works. If you're going to make a point, defend it. Okay, so the Avada Kedavra. Right, so here we go back. The way that I defend against this is if somebody makes a statement and then asks me to prove something against it, I say, well, actually, I like keeping an open mind and considering all the data before I chime in on whether or not it's a good idea. Can you help me understand your reasoning? Just a suggestion. Okay, so we have logical fallacies. There's like 25 of them. It's fantastic. Oh, got it. Okay, so I have to wrap up. Linguistics trickery. There's a whole entire category of speech called true but not useful. So somebody's going to volunteer an idea that might be true, but it just doesn't help solve the problem. We get into pronoun confusion. I'm going to it this one and that one to death, you, until you just agree with me. So this is a great. I can't resolve that pointer to the value.
No.
Yeah, I've actually seen conversations where they pronoun each other to death, and everybody's just like, I just want to get out of here. I agree with you. No! So I'll be the first to raise my hand, and this is my last slide. I'll be the first to raise my hand and say, when you said it, what did you mean? You would not believe the number of head shakes and that go around the room when I try and bring clarity to a conversation. Turns out that actually increases your trust bank because you're trying to drive clarity. And it turns out if you're confused, it's likely somebody else is confused as well. Okay, FUD. Yeah, so do this, not that. I have a whole bunch of other slides as well, but that's all I've got. And I'm now officially over time.